Okay, we already start the recording now. Okay, thank you very much for joining our volunteering and project management skills. So this is the topic for podcast by PMI Malaysia chapter. So this is a special edition for uh, November 2025. Yeah. So we are together with our past president, Krishnan. Together with us today, we will be talking about the topic of volunteering and the power of project management skills and why it matters. So, hello, Krishnan. How are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. Actually, I'm having you for this.
It's my pleasure. It's my
Yes.
pleasure.
Okay. Thank you. I think I already asked you quite a number of time, right? Whether you wanted to be in my podcast. But of course, I think November is the perfect timing for you to be in my podcast because we are talking about volunteering, the topic that is actually close in our hearts. And not only that, but we are talking about the uh, power of project management skills. And I understand everybody wanted to know why actually it matters. So that's why we bring this topic to you in order for you to actually trying to explain to all of us, especially those aspired leaders outside there, those aspired volunteers who just finished their project management certificate, okay, and they actually was is really looking into volunteering. So this is the time for all of you who wanted to understand more about the volunteering and why is it matter. So before we go to that topic, okay, my interview questions to you, maybe you could explain a little bit about yourself, maybe starting from your journey of being a PP, past president, who was a president previously. Yeah.
Uh, uh, First of all, I just want to amplify what you just said about the timing.
Okay.
This is the month when we actually celebrate International Project Management Day. That happens on the first Thursday in November, and now we're going to celebrate International Volunteers Day in
Mhm.
December. So the timing is kind of very perfect, as it were. And I had not thought about it until just a moment ago. But leave aside my past presidency. That's not where
Okay.
it starts.
Mm-hmm.
It started uh, probably very early on in my life. I mean, as you were speaking, I was thinking, yeah, I've served on what do you call it, PIBG, the
Mm.
Parent Teachers Associations. Uh, when when I was at school, we were already doing charitable activities. We would go to an orphanage and teach English and those sorts of things. So those early lessons probably form the foundations for me to actually give back. And here's the funny bit. Before I got elected, and I might add, I call myself an accidental volunteer, at least from a PMI
Okay.
perspective. Uh, before I got elected to lead the chapter, uh, I came to an AGM without any expectations of actually holding office. But my fate was such that uh, someone who knew me for some time decided to nominate
Mm.
me. And then other things happened at that fateful AGM, and that's how I became treasurer. And it was probably at a time when the chapter was just resurrecting itself, for want of a better word, resurrecting itself. It had just come out of what I will call chapter suspension. There was a period of time when the chapter was in suspension, and things were not as bright or cheerful as they are today.
Mm.
Today, virtually every day, there's some activity or other, and with WhatsApp, it's always busy. Yeah, so the busyness is not just
Yeah.
the members. A lot of it is actually the volunteers chipping in something or other as you go along, and if you don't keep up with it, you can get lost very, very quickly. So it's quite a radical change. So coming back to my own journey, and my project management
Mm-hmm.
journey probably started at university. Now at the time, and when I say at the time, 2011, when I started to study for PMP, I had no idea that I had already had some roots in project management at university. It's only afterwards, after attending the boot camp, after having time to reflect, that I realized the roots were actually planted all those many years ago. So the story for me is I started out in project management proper in Dell. I was in Dell in Penang. I happened
Mm-hmm.
to have a good year before I got nominated to sit for the PMP examination, and what I learned afterwards was that Dell had an idea to actually train 30, actually it was 36 PMPs in Penang to do global projects on behalf of Dell. And my first reaction when I heard that was, this is almost a perfect storm. It's good for the individual, it's good for the state, it's good for the country, it's good for Dell. Rarely do you actually come across what I call four wins. Normal situation, as most of us will have experienced, is you win, I lose, or vice versa. But this was a win-win-win-win outcome. But my thought process was as follows. If there's 30 of us in Del Penang, there must be another 30 in Penang. KPMPs I'm talking about. And there's actually a justification to actually have a chapter or a branch or whatever it is in Penang. At the time, when I thought all these wonderful thoughts, I was not even a chapter member. And I think a lot of us probably can resonate with that because we are not aware that the chapter exists. We don't know what the chapter represents. And 6 months went by before I went to that fateful AGM. Uh, the then chapter president did not respond to my email when I talked about setting up a branch in a chapter. And funnily enough, you have to be careful what you actually wish for. And I say that in two contexts for this particular discussion. I first came across PMP in 2005. I was working for a company called NCR. Sorry, 2001, I beg your pardon. 2001, I came across PMP. And we were working on this MAS project. And the contract required us to provide a PMP. So I, out of curiosity, just went to look at what is PMP. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought this is a good thing to do, but affordability stopped me from pursuing that. Today, I have a different view on things. I should have done something back in 2001, 2005. But uh, fast forward to 2011, I had a good year in 2010. Dell says, "Come, we'll sponsor your PMP training." Of course, I jumped at it because
Mm-hmm.
that was the first
Mm-hmm.
wish. But the second wish was after the PMP certification in 2012, said we need a branch in Penang. Now, fast forward, I think it was to 2017 or something like that, that we actually
Yeah.
inaugurated a branch in Penang, what we could now call the northern
Mm-hmm.
branch. And later on, we did the southern branch. So these wishes actually have a funny way of becoming a reality. But if you don't think it, you can't work towards it. So this
Yeah.
is something like a strategy, right? We want to 10x our revenue, for example. Now, if you don't have that strategy in mind, you won't figure out how you're going to be able to do those things. Today, I'm glad to see there's volunteers, not just in Kuala Lumpur, which was the case in 2013. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they're also in Penang. They're also in Johor. Uh, and I would be really excited to see more people come from other remote locations. Because at that point in time, 2013, it was all KL centric, huh? And the remote people were left behind. So that's really the short story there. I think of great interest to the audience is what's my background? I am an accountant by training. Now, you will find when you meet me in person, that I
Yeah.
don't come across as a dull and boring accountant. I'm a little more extrovert, if you like. But that's not my natural state. My natural state is introvert. Very quiet, don't say
Okay.
anything.
Before you go through, I think you already you already go and on. I not yet ask your questions. Okay, but before that, I just want to ask. Can you hear my voice in the? Can you guys hear my voice? Because I've heard that you. I mean, the people said that I am on mute here. Am
Yeah,
I
you're on mute.
audible, Tip?
You're on mute
Okay,
on.
but actually my phone doesn't say that I'm on mute. Okay, now can you hear me? No? Okay, if that's the case, I will just leave quietly first. You're the last Marissa. Okay, I just leave quietly first. Then I come back. Okay, wait, yeah. Sorry for this issue happening. Okay.
Hello, Anand. Are you back in? But you're still on mute.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me now?
Okay,
Okay.
now you're there.
Okay, all right. Okay. I'm sorry guys for the technical glitch just now. I think you go and on and but I think it's okay. I would like to bring to reverse a bit, okay? That you've chat about yourself, okay? And that you mentioned you really began an accidental volunteer, right? And looking back,
Yes.
how did you already take your story in Dells, and after that you talk about being president, and then after that you also give some suggestion on having to have the Penang branch and everything. But I just want you to go back a little bit. Once you already have your PMP, right? Once you already have your PMP, and basically, I just want to know what triggers you to be a volunteer. Okay, as you told me that you started began an accidental volunteer during that time. But then you also need to explain to us, when you already passed your PMP, how did your project management skill that that things project management skills that you've learned, okay, and help you to navigate those early experience while you are doing volunteer job during that time.
That's really a tough question to answer.
Oh, okay.
And I'll explain it to you this way. Because when I
Mm-hmm.
did the boot camp, okay, so all of us who've got PMPs do the boot camp, that first lesson was the definition of a project: define start, define end, a unique outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Or today we're talking
Mm-hmm.
something of value, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that from the first job that I did uh, at Ernst and Young as an audit assistant, every audit that I did was actually someone's volume is too loud.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, it's better.
Okay.
That's
Okay,
better.
just
Thank you.
continue first. Yeah.
Yeah, so every audit that I did, even if I went to the same company repeatedly year in, year out, it was a project. And I didn't realize that it was a project. So I was already practicing project management skills without knowing it. Okay, so that's the early beginnings. It was later on that the PMP actually just gave you a framework within which to work. And the framework that I often relate to is the 10 knowledge areas. And I often, and I do this especially with students, is to talk about how this is actually a natural ladder towards the C-suite. So a lot of us who are youngsters are aspiring to be at the top of the tree sooner or later, ideally sooner rather than later. And if you explain it to them in this context that as a project manager, you're working with a lot of subject matter experts. You don't pretend to know all the answers. That's I'm very clear about this. I don't know what I don't know. You have to humble yourself and accept that you don't know what you don't know. Uh, and the way the project manager succeeds is actually engaging lots of subject matter experts. Typically, there will be people who might well be smarter than the project manager. And build your skills up that way. So when you start to talk about CEOs, for example, they have a board. I'll call it a board for the time being, but it could very well be direct reports who are subject matter experts. Someone who's a director of procurement, someone director of HR, and so on and so on and so on. And they will draw on that expertise to deliver whatever activity, program, crisis, whatever it is that they actually face in their respective organizations. So I see project management as actually being a huge platform to take you on up to the C-suite if required. Now, that doesn't necessarily answer your question from a volunteering perspective, because one of the things that I ended up doing in the chapter, and maybe I should just go back a couple of steps. That first year in the chapter was, when I say in the chapter, as a volunteer in the chapter, was a difficult year because I was a fish out of water. And I actually wanted to step down after 1 year. And the following year's
Mm-hmm.
AGM persuaded me to stay on. And then I stayed on. And then another year went by. And in that year, I actually started to do something different. And that's when I started to break rules within LinkedIn and started to build my network. Okay. So I became known to people. And people connected with me, not because I was Krishnan. They connected with me probably because I was a leader on the chapter. And today, my LinkedIn following is 15,000. And today, for example, I met Sydney Mudau, president of PMI's Sydney chapter. And I'm meeting him for the first time, but I'm already connected to him. Okay, so we exchange some stories about how we actually use our network to do good stuff. Um, uh, and it was in that third year, and we had gone to Bali for the limb that particular year. And people
Mm-hmm.
started to work on me and say, listen, you have to come and stand for the president, because if you don't, the chapter is going to go in the wrong direction. And I'm lucky. I can't tell you how we did it, but we grew the chapter very rapidly. I think it was May of 2000. I became chapter president in October of 2015. By May of 2016, we had already crossed the first membership threshold, 600. We had never had been anywhere near that. And then it just ran away from basically from February of 2016 up until March of 2020. We had month on month growth, year on year growth. And the sort of growth that we experienced was 42%, 32%, 19%, 9% year on year. And for me, it was a huge lift, because when you start talking about incremental improvement, when you start talking double digits, it's a big deal. When I say double digits, if you can say, I grew the chapter by 10% a year, it's a big deal. But we were running at 42, 32, 19. So you get excited. And so in a manner of speaking, I started to look upon the chapter as with me being as the CEO of the chapter, and we got to what is 1400 and some change before COVID decided to put an end to our growth trajectory. But today I'm hearing we are 4,000. I think Francis is on the call. He might be able to confirm whether it's 4,000 or something else. But you go into things, for example, event management. We weren't very good with event management. We engaged an event uh, organizer. Uh, I don't remember what they're called, but anyway, conference organizer. That's what we engaged them, and we had a profit sharing arrangement with them. But even with them being at the helm, they were not able to deliver the sorts of numbers of participants to the thing. So we had to get our hands dirty, reach out to our members and stuff like that. And one of the things that took off was the idea of having the
Mm.
WhatsApp groups. We had actually had
Yeah.
WhatsApp groups by state. So you are actually able to set up what I will loosely refer to as projects to reach people. And the reaching of the people was very much around the knowledge that 300 people would join the chapter and 300 people would leave the chapter. Those were the early days each year.
Mm.
And most of the people who left happened to be people who were remote. So how do you reach out to the people who are remote and make them belong? So my trademark, and I'd love to hear comments from the audience. My observation is that the way I conducted myself with members of the chapter
Mm.
was very, very personal. And probably, if I relate to you specifically, the reason I reached out to you was because I saw your profile, and I saw,
Yeah.
hang on, this person is a Toastmaster, and someone else had planted the idea of Toastmaster being important from a communications perspective, and I said, my goodness, she's a president of a Toastmasters group. We should bring her into the fold, bring her into the thing. And what do we have here? Several years later, you're sitting on the board, which for me, I I get a great kick out of seeing people succeed like that.
Yeah.
So
So I guess you actually, mentions about this the arts of influencing. I think you talk about it a lot, right? I mean, how you grow the chapter. And I remember when you actually, just give me a call during that time you wanted to set up Toastmasters. And at the same time you said that, okay, Shasha, you're actually, wearing two hats, which is you're the Toastmasters and also, being a
okay,
PMI member. During that time,
correct.
I did not wanted to be a volunteer just yet for the PMI Malaysia chapter, even though you're actually invited me to do so. It's merely because of, I don't really like to be, to go. During that time you were actually having a meetup in the Bukit Kiara or something, right? Or at Damansara Help University or something, right? So during that time, I think uh, I'm not, I'm not really keen into travel because my location is actually in the Cyberjaya at that moment of time. And furthermore, I already, I was during that time, I was already an area director in Toastmasters. So it's quite a lot of things to me. But yeah, I think that's inspired me, even though, we just, know each other. And I feel that, yeah, part of it, you're the past president, and a bit, we have the connections in terms of not only that, we talk a lot, I think that's the power of influencing. Being a volunteer, we basically make friends, right? So I figured that Zaha, Francis, really can relate with me. And I guess Keen, Bonnie, and I also would like to say hello to Anan and Piria together with us today. It's really, really nice for all of you to have today. And if you are yet to be a volunteer, this is the time. And I think we have the best person to talk about volunteering and also, implementing a project management skills is actually the masters of arts of it. Yeah. Okay. I just would like to continue the discussion with you. After 13 years of volunteering, right, at both chapter and perhaps at the global level as well, right, Krishnan, uh, I just wanted to understand what are the key project management skills do you think are most valuable to you when serving as a volunteer leader? Even if you are not yet answering these questions, I figured that maybe one of them, the arts of influencing. So maybe you could give us a little bit more detail on that.
Many years ago, this would have been 2019, and this was in Penang, funnily enough. And just for benefit of those who are meeting me for the first time, albeit virtually, I live in Penang. Uh, Today, I'm actually calling from YMCA in Kuala Lumpur because I happen to be in KL this week. But uh, that particular year, PMI agreed to have the AP limb, the Asia Pacific limb in Penang. And one of the things that I was chapter president at the time, and one of the things that they had me do with the other volunteers was to actually say a few words to the gathering that was there. And I told a a bunch of stuff. And there was a lady called Beth Ouellette, who, if I'm not wrong, is a past PMI director, and she's certainly a PMI fellow. And she said to me something which I would not have thought that I had done, that I'm good at telling stories. So she referred to me as a storyteller. Now that's a skill in its own right, but it's not something that I had gone and cultivated by way of, I don't know, getting involved with Toastmasters or something clever like that. I put it down to the vast number of experiences that I've had. I mean, if I just use a interesting example from today, the three of us, Sydney Mudau, who's president of Sydney chapter, was in KL. I was with Joshua, who's our immediate past president, and myself. We had just come out of, let me get this right, we just come out of no, sorry. We come out of the conference that both of them were attending, and we were going down towards lunch, and we realized that we are actually living the cultures of PMI. So be welcoming, okay? For example, we are the sorts of we're a friendly bunch of people. Huh? We are not unfriendly. We would help whoever it is that comes our way. That's very natural way of doing things. And I think some of that influencing, some of that storytelling that we actually tell, and now I'm telling the story about getting into the lift and us all sharing a laugh and a giggle over how we're actually living those five cultures that PMI have developed. I think it's 2 or 3 years ago they developed it, but we're living that culture that's out there. It's real. It's not something that you see on the walls that you can't relate to. So the storytelling is definitely there. And so you have these experiences, pick those experiences, keep them in your back pocket. When the time comes, you're actually able to tell those stories. And when you tell those stories, people warm up to you because you are being authentic, you're being vulnerable. So these are two things that I'm very clear about. Humility is one thing. You need to humble yourself, get rid of your ego. You're a nobody. All of us are nobodies, as it were. Actually, we are somebody, but we don't need to go and hype it up, as it were. Okay, be be humble,
Yeah.
and people will warm up to you automatically because you humble yourself. Uh, I, I don't want to tell other stories which I know I have. Some of the participants here know how they came into the chapter. Francis is one person who can tell his own story. Joshua is another person who can tell his own story. And there are many others who can tell their own story. But the common denominator happens to be someone called Krishna. And is because Krishnan came off his pedestal and was willing to be on a normal same platform with everyone else. So
Yeah.
this is how I see myself influencing people. And the strange thing for me is this: a lot of people don't realize that. Actually, it's not even don't realize. They don't know that in the first 4 years of school, I'm talking about primary school, I went to 6 different schools. Now, there's a reason for that. My father was a JKR engineer. We moved around a lot. So I bully people and I say, I'm more Malaysian than you. Of course, you're going to turn and say, hey, listen, you look like a white fellow. What nonsense are you talking, sort of situation. So I pull that stunt very, very often. And I use it to considerable impact because, as I said earlier, I'm an introvert. But to talk about yourself is so easy. Yeah? If I said, Sasha, sorry, I'm going to change tack a little bit with your permission. Okay, I happen to know that Sasha has a liking for makeup and that sort of thing. So if I asked her to tell some stories about her makeup interest, she'll be able to tell all sorts of stories out there. I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm not going to put you on the spot today, right? But
Yeah.
when you know something about it, you just tickle people and you bring out them. And even though they are introverts, they seem to come across as very excited, very
Yes.
confident, and so on and so on and so on. As far as confidence is concerned, I would say I'm not a confident person. I'm always looking for approval. So you'll find me asking, was that okay, Sasha? Am I dressed properly today, Sasha? That sort of thing. Because my confidence is actually suspect. But today I know that if I'm vulnerable, people can relate to it easily. They can
Yeah.
empathize easily. So there are a lot of other skills. Like day before yesterday, when I was talking to the Uni KL students, one of them asked me, "What are the skills that are not talked about when you're learning project management?" And I had to quote, "Empathy is one of them. This idea of vulnerability is yet another one. You got to be able to come along and say, listen, I screwed up. I screwed up. Not every project is successful, or not every process that we undertake is successful. So we need to be, I surrender, I screwed up. Okay, guys, we need to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to make this right sort of situation. And I'm also lucky because I'm not the sort of person who does Tai Chi. Yeah? Sasha's fault. This is Sasha's fault. I point the finger
Yeah.
here, there, and everywhere else, right? So I'm not a Tai Chi expert. I focus on
Right.
putting the fire out, and I often tend to think of myself as a problem solver. So it's not so much project management, because project management takes many different guises, and for me, often it's about how do you fix a problem, okay? And often it's someone else has found the problem, and we are called in to fix the problem. So let's just say sales is plummeted for whatever reason, and the CEO is having nightmares. He's not able to sleep because he's not able to deliver on his things. You call in a project manager and say, "Listen, I want you to do X, Y, and Z." And we have to figure out how to do X, Y, and Z. We don't know how to do X, Y,
Yeah.
and Z. And we have
I
to step.
think the most important thing that you mentioned about is actually the power of soft skill, okay? It's inclusive of the influencing skill, the storytelling skill, so that you could be able to connect with other people. And Krishnan, many see volunteering as giving back, right? So, but I just wonder, from your perspective, how does volunteering also help sharpen a um project professional capabilities? Okay, like for example, we volunteer, all right, and we basically are young project managers. I mean, this is actually the aspiration from the new project managers out there. But whenever we actually need to start something, okay, if it's not in the real particular place, that we want to do this and that, we want to test ourselves whether we can do this and that. But I feel that PMI Malaysia chapter is the best test bed of ever we have ever done. Like for example, this is the platform that we can meet other people, like the people like you, the people like Joshua, even Francis, or even Zaha, the person who has 30 years of experience in Petronas, for example. I mean, we had a conversation about that, right, Zaha, from two previous podcasts. I mean, he was actually part of the person that we want the knowledge from them, because the people who's actually having more experience. But I just would like to understand, right, being a volunteer. But somebody, some people, they say that I don't want to do volunteering, okay? But what can you tell these people? Okay, hello, please, if you could be able to do something, because maybe in real life you're not doing a good job. Like for example, you just know about something technical, but what about the soft skill? What about the empathetic skill? What about your emotional quality skill? All right, what about your emotional quotient equation? So all these sorts of things have to be embedded together in order for you to build you as a good project manager. So what's your thoughts about that? Maybe you could share with all of us.
So I tend to think of volunteering. Uh, being something akin to having what I will call a psychologically safe environment to experiment. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back a couple of steps. Most of us, when we went to university, I'm going to assume all of us went to university. So those of you who have not gone to university, please accept my apologies for leaving you out. That's not my way. I like to be inclusive. Okay. So those of us who've gone to university tend to have embarked on what I will call a technical discipline. If I use my own example, I embarked upon accountancy. Now, I did not have the opportunity to go and do Toastmasters. I don't know whether Toastmasters was around in 1980, but I'll assume it was around, and I didn't have someone to mentor me to go and do Toastmastering. Okay. If I use some knowledge I know of you, Sasha, I didn't have the benefit of organizing events, emceeing, whatever during my student days. I had an opportunity to be a student leader, so that was probably an example of me volunteering. But it was doing stuff that was foreign to me. Yeah? And so when you come into the chapter as a volunteer, you actually get a chance to practice things that your workplace will not allow you to do. Okay, your bosses are not going to say, hey, come, you be MC here, whatever it is, it's good for you, or come, go join Toastmasters, you'll be a better presenter, or whatever it is. You're not going to get that because it's not inside the so-called job scope, if I can call it that. But here's how you improve. You go out, you volunteer inside the chapter, and then suddenly people in your organization, your working organization, the one that's paying your salary, actually starts to see something different about you. And they start to see some leadership qualities coming out of you. And that's how you suddenly get the promotion happening, or you get the additional responsibility coming your way. Those things didn't happen to me. I'm be very honest with all of you here. Those things did not happen to me, but I do know that I worked for 30 years before I started to volunteer in PMI Malaysia chapter. And in those 30 years, I did not grow nearly as much as I did in those first 5 years of volunteering with the chapter, both personally as well as professionally. I've talked about me being an introvert. Here today, I come across as an extrovert. Okay, I come across as being confident, and so on and so forth. But it's only by allowing yourself to experiment with stuff that you have not been able to experiment with. Like when I was talking to the students earlier, sorry, on Wednesday, I was here for talking to UniKL students. I said, listen, go and volunteer. Take on these new things because these things will allow you to discover yourself on the one hand, because we don't know what our likes and dislikes are. If I use our education system as a reference point, there are people who come out with straight A's, right? And they want to do medicine and they can't do medicine. They end up doing marine biology or something peculiar like that. And often they just accept that. Okay. That's not what they wanted to do. They wanted to do medicine. So you're already what I call a square peg in a round hole. So you need to find your passion. And one way of finding your passion is inside the chapter. I had not organized an event where we had 200 people come to an event, go find speakers. And if you ask Francis, I was with Francis last night, he was saying, yeah, I found another speaker here, there, and everywhere. I had to dig into he didn't use the word Rolodex, but he would have dug into the equivalent of his Rolodex and said, I know a person in XYZ organization or in XYZ business. Let's bring him on him or her on board. So it takes a lot of courage to reach out. And in my case, I had a classmate. She was a dato. She was a former CEO of a bank, and I called her, and she said, "Yeah, I'll be delighted to come along and speak to your symposium." But it took courage for me to do that. So you actually develop confidence, courage, and a lot of this is about being prepared to step into the unknown. If I just talk project management, and I often use the maze as an example, As a child, we would have been taken by our parents into a park and there might have been a maze there. Now, when we go inside the maze, the expectations will come out on the other side, but we will hit a lot of dead ends. Huh? So, do you have the courage to step in to begin with, hit those dead ends, and then iterate out, iterate in, iterate out, iterate in? And I use this in an agile context because agile is very much about that. You go, you try something, it doesn't work, you backtrack, and then you try again. But you need to have the courage to step into the maze. If you don't step into the maze, how do you know you can come out at the other end? And then when you've
You're right.
done it
Yeah.
the first time, when you've done it the first time, you want to go back and do it the second time without having to hit the dead ends. But
Yeah, true.
any project that we start, and I used to tell this to my team when we embarked on a project, they would all be intimidated. We've never done this project before. I'm sure that resonates with a lot of us. We've never done that project before. But until we put our foot into the unknown, how do we know whether we can or we can't? So you start to develop something called a positive mindset. And this comes back to this idea of attitude. Okay? Are you a half glass full person or a half glass empty person? Because if you're a half glass empty person, you're always going to be looking for the excuses not to do the project. If you're a
Yeah.
half glass
But
full,
but but I think for because we are project manager, right, Krishnan? So I think, being volunteers, what you're mentioning, we are actually the safest place. We have a psychological safety net for us to actually do something that perhaps nobody wants us to do. Okay, we might not have the opportunity. I actually agree with that. I mean, with that statements actually. One thing that I wanted to actually, ask you further. Um, okay, when being a project manager, automatically we are also a project leader. Be it like, for example, we are also a leader. I would say not a project leader, but we are also automatically we are in charge. So when we are in charge, automatically the courage, the whatever that is needed for us to actually, as long as we deliver, we need to do it. Okay, of course, there's a governed by process and procedures and whatnot. Okay, so this is actually something that we already know. But the most important thing is that when we actually being a project manager, we are actually developing the leadership in us. So therefore, we are able to get all this courage. Sometimes we also don't know, dari mana I got this courage, where it comes
correct,
from. We do not
correct,
know, right?
correct.
But we actually got it. We have to actually, do whatever that we're supposed to do because this is our responsibility. Even though the first thing is that whether you are actually the appointed a project manager, okay, maybe you might need to have that, you have to be appointed, but in some occasion the project manager do not have a direct reports, right? So therefore we need to use the arts of influencing, the arts of storytelling to get people to help us in our in our projects, okay, because these people are actually team members that need to be need to contribute to the project. In some occasion we do not have that authority to instruct them, all right, but of course in modern ways of doing things, I mean, in whatever that we are doing things in the office, for example, definitely we have a WBSE codes, we have a people, even though it's a metric based situation, we always get a people with us, but volunteer is different. We need to ask permission. We need to talk to the people in order for them to feel easy to work with us. This is also the arts of courage that we need to be able to get people, by asking them. Suka-suka mau asking them, of course cannot. Of course, we need to be friended with them and so on. But with this, right, Krishnan, I would like to ask you. Okay, by the way, if you said in the 80s, Toastmasters actually was founded by Dr. Ralph C. Smedley in 1924. So the Toastmasters already
Correct,
there in
correct.
1924, which is basically he started the first Toastmasters meeting actually in Santa Ana, California. Okay, so learn the art of communication, learn the art of presentation, and a lot of things, the crisis management, many other things that we can learn, about the communication actually. Okay, going to that. I just would like to understand from you, Krishna, what inspires you to keep volunteering after all these years? I think, and how do PM, project management principle, actually guide that ongoing passion and commitment? Because I know you were a president before, and actually I know you during your presidency, and we, even though I was not what we call, I was not part of the volunteer during that time. I think I was quite close with you because we were sometimes on the phone like 2 hours in the at the middle of the,
Secrets.
yeah, too many things that we already had a connection very very early years in 2000, yeah, 16, 17, that time. So maybe tell all of us what really inspires you and what it keeps you, that ongoing passion still burning, and your commitment. Maybe you could share with us.
I think it's many things. So as people go, I'm just a helpful person. So and I'm still involved in a lot of voluntary activities. It may not be PMI related. So that's one thing about me that I'm willing to help. But here's the thing that probably triggers me most, and I can see direct application of project management skills in the context of nation building. So today, my heart is actually not so much with adult project managers, it's actually with the student body. That's where it is. Now, how was that triggered? That was triggered because I happened to come across something called PMIGAC. Back, actually, it was introduced to me on the day I got elected as chapter president, and that was Derek Poon of Help University. And he said something to me on that evening. Okay, congratulations, we are doing something or other, and it just ran over my head because I didn't know about PMIGAC. And if I ask the audience today, do you know what is PMIGAC? Most of us probably say, what is that? Okay, I would have to explain. So I left it alone. But when I got invited many months later to actually attend the Help University on-site visit, this is when the so-called experts came to assess Help University. I got the bug. I understood what it's all about, and I said, all our universities need this. That was the trigger. And on the back of that, we did a whole bunch of stuff. Again, project management, right? We organized activities. We thought out of the box. Even when people said it's not possible to do, we found ways to solve the issue. We brought people in from Belgium. They presented to our academicians. And that first meeting that we organized, and Derek was part of it, we had 30 people present in Kuala Lumpur, 20 universities. And many of those universities later on went on to become PMIGAC accredited universities. So I see project management, and I shared this with Randy Black in 2019 in the AP Lim in Penang. And he said, Krishnan, you're right. Uh, Students with some project management knowledge and skills, we're not talking certification, we're just talking knowledge and skills, perform 30%, 30, not 13, 30% more better than students without. And that caught my attention because, and I was able to relate to that whole idea that students of all the various groupings need this more than anyone else because of the nature of education. When I was learning, I could memorize and bullshit my way through whatever exam it is that I sat. But today, it's not so much about exams. They will come along, they will say, okay, guys, split up into 6 groups or whatever it is, five, 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 five. You have got 1 month. Here's a piece of paper. Go and do this assignment and come back and be prepared to do a presentation. Now, those of us who are shy, presentation, no, no, not for me. Thank you very much. But if you're forced into presenting, you start to become a master presenter, right? And if you organize yourself to get started at the word go, instead of just being a mediocre student, which is what I would refer to myself as, you'd be a better student. So when I sell this idea to the academicians, I say the most important thing you are looking at is student learning outcomes. Now, if the student has actually assimilated something above and beyond what the mediocre student would have done, when I say mediocre, I would have been the midnight candle person, right? I've been given a whole month. I would have waited till day 30 before I panic and I say, Sasha, have you done this thing? Can I borrow your thing? And then I will do all the nonsense. Huh? Okay. Today it's called plagiarization and all that sort of things we didn't know about in that day and age. But there's something else called turn it in, right? Just like if you went to AI and downloaded the answer to whatever assignment it is, you'll get caught, huh? Because it's sitting in, turn it in will be able to tell you, taken it from such and such a website or whatever it is. You plagiarize and you lose out that way. So you're actually being forced into a situation where you have to learn. But you can only learn effectively if you start early enough and you go through that, what I call the iterative process. A lot of us here talk about agile, but agile is a mindset. Huh? So it's not waiting to the last minute. You need to start at the beginning. You don't know what the hell you're getting yourself into, but through that progressive elaboration, that's another term that's in project management, right? You start to
Yeah.
peel back the onion and you start to understand what it is that you actually there, and because you're doing that, you learn a hell of a lot. Now, the natural thing for the student to do is if they get drawn into the project management setting, and I sell it this way: no two projects are identical. If you like variety, no 2 days are identical because yesterday's problem will not show up today. Today's problem will not show up tomorrow. So if you like variety, and I'm one of those who actually likes variety, I thrive on variety, yeah? Then this is the perfect environment to get into. And what I say to students today is this: start a student club. So at UniKL, they started I planted that idea in May of last year. Not last year, this year. 6 months later, I'm back inside there. They've got the club going. Now I'm telling them, go and get yourself tied up with the chapter, become a PMI club, become the second one to Nottingham. So I'm inspiring them to do this. And for me, it was a great kick and thrill to learn that they actually have a club. And I shared the story about Nottingham. Nottingham took 8 years to become a PMI club. Not many people know that fact. But here, 6 months, 8 months later, they already got a club. Now, next step, right? But
Yeah.
for the student itself, I say, if you're interested in project management as a career, then what you need to be looking to do before you graduate, get your CAPM. Why? Because you will know the language of project management. The employer will know that you know something about project management, so you don't need to be coached. And they'll probably pay you a premium. And even if you're competing with your peer group, let's just say both of you are first class honors degree, one with the CAPM, one without a CAPM, guess who they're going to choose? The one with the CAPM. And it actually also reflects upon your attitude, right? If you're open to actually adding on to your repertoire of skills, uh, I mean, that's what drew me to you, that you had this additional skill, right? Of course, I didn't know much else other than there's this thing called DTM, but uh, that's what drew me to you. And I'm inspired whenever I see someone who's got these additional skills, uh, because I can see potential straight away. I can see potential. So if I, as an
Yeah.
ordinary person, a so-called nobody, can see potential, what about somebody who is a somebody? Will they not see the potential as well?
Wow, that is really, really something from you. I hope that those people outside there, especially, those new PMP certified, you have to hear this, you have to listen this, because this is very, 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 very inspiring. Okay, because if it's not because because if you start volunteer, more potential you can realize. Okay, I would like, before we continue for our last questions, I think we only have 5 more minutes, but I would like to take opportunity to read some of the, actually not a questions, but basically a comment. I think Francis did some comments, and he said that from his experience, from my experience, people offer to volunteer because they have experienced love. Someone volunteers to help, or him or her, and they expected much love to so profound that they want to love back by volunteering and giving back. Oh, but well, very good one, Francis. I think I really like the one that you mentioned, because definitely if you give back to the people, definitely, somehow or other, there always some way, somehow or other, it will always goes back to you. Whatever that you give, you will get back. Okay, something like that. Thank you very much, Francis, for a very, very nice quotes as you mentioned there. And Zaha also already mentioned about, we all project practitioners with privilege, we being one of PMMI members of various industries backgrounds. Volunteers platforms provide vibrant place to practice something different from daily work assignment, and the activities or initiative management provide additional credential. Yes, that's really, really true, Zaha, because what you mentioned is that, for example, when I am in the PMI Malaysia chapter, I actually meet people from construction. I actually meet people from other parts, like, corporate communications. They actually do events, and many others. You really can transact all that knowledge and sharing. This is the best platform ever. And definitely, Zaha, what you mentioned is really, really true, in which that I am from IT background, but I take Marcom as part of my portfolio in this PMI Malaysia chapter. But of course, we can actually open to any portfolio. If you are this, for example, if you are always do events, you can try something else. You can also be part of the social impact if you want to. So this is actually something, whatever that that you think you wanted to do, that give benefits to other people, this the time for you to do it. Okay, yeah, by volunteering. And I figured that this is actually something really, really we have nice to have, and it's one of the most powerful training grounds, okay, for any project managers who wants to grow with purpose. And when you step into a volunteer role, you're not just giving your time, but you're sharpening the very skill that made you stand out as a project manager, right? So this is actually the PM skill, and why it matters, because really the collaboration, the adaptability, the problem solving, the stakeholders management, and the arts of leading without authority. Okay, and these experiences stretch you in ways a normal work environment often cannot give you this opportunity, right? And they remind you why you chose this profession in the first place, and to make things happen and make things better. With that explanation, right? Krishnan, this is one last questions, because we actually, run out of time. For those new to the project management in PMI or PMI, for those expired project managers out there, expired volunteer out there, why they should consider volunteering, Krishnan, and how can their project management skills make a real difference in the community? This one you really need to answer, and I want everybody outside there. Okay, if you're still there, or for those people who's really, really inspired to know about this, Krishnan, is for you to explain to them
Yeah,
now.
before I answer that question, I think I just want to add to Zaha's comment, and that is, I don't think people realize that project management is a portable skill. And what do I mean by that? You can apply it to virtually any setting that's out there. I'm actually known for saying that our mothers are the greatest project managers we shall ever know. I'm not going to go into the why and the where and whatever else it is. So, project management is a universal skill. You can apply it in virtually any setting that's out there. So a lot of us think it's a work skill. I personally believe it's a life skill. Today I'm 65, so I'm over the hill, as it were. But I still believe that the messaging, the awareness needs to be created for others out there. Now, coming back to why should the project managers come into volunteering? Uh, why should they practice or sharpen or hone their project management skills? Uh, there's always something to learn. As you were speaking earlier about some of the things out there, I talked about the education side of things. Another thing that's close to my heart happens to be the ESG or SDG piece, what you will loosely refer to as the green aspect of things. And that's been there with me probably all of 28, 29 years, close to 30 years right now. Today's I have a great opportunity. I can go and learn all there is to learn about green project management. Okay, I can go in and I can do some social impact work. I could go out with Gayatri, for example, do a beach cleanup. Now, beach cleanup on its own sounds like it's easy to do, but if you ask Gayatri how difficult it is to do it, you'll be, oh my God, I did not realize how difficult it is to do. And this is where our project management skills come into play. This is where our problem solving skills come into play, because without us encountering the difficulties of organizing whatever it is that we want to organize, we're not going to apply our skills. We're not going to be able to sharpen those problem solving skills that I'm talking about. And when you start to do this, people inside your workplace will see you as a completely different individual. And the sorts of things you will start doing is, instead of saying, no, no, it's not my job. This is not my job. Give it to Shafida's job. Don't disturb me, sort of thing. You'll be the one who's actually, I'm willing to do this. Give it to me. You start to volunteer within your organization. You start to take responsibility for stuff you wouldn't ordinarily do. And because you take responsibility for stuff that you wouldn't ordinarily do, you grow. You grow professionally. You grow in your career in the workplace, and you become a more confident individual because you've done that much more than the ordinary person in the organization is willing to do. Too many of us operate in silos. Oh, this is my job scope. I don't want any more. But if you expand it a little bit, you start to become a valuable piece. When I say a valuable piece, you become a valuable individual within your organization. And often I try to put things forward in this context. What's in it for you? Not what's in it for me. What's in it for you? And when I'm talking to the students about CAPM and stuff like that, I say, you'll get a job. More easily, you'll get a job because you got CAPM. You get a 10% higher salary than your peer group. So this is how I sell the idea. What's in it for you? If we start to talk more about what's in it for you, people will warm to you a lot faster, because you're not thinking about what's in it for me. And the what's in it for me works in a different way. I happen to be a person of faith. So I know that maybe there's nothing for me right now by sharing whatever I'm sharing this evening. But my faith is strong enough to tell me that karma will come and bless me. And if it's not directly myself, it will be indirectly. Maybe it's my children or my grandchildren or whoever it is that's further down the road. But that's strong faith. And I was talking about faith to Francis last night, about how he survived that fire accident that he experienced earlier this year. And I said, there's a few things that were going for you, and one of them happened to be faith. And that's how he survived and managed to live to tell the tale relatively unscathed. I know he's experienced a lot of hardship and stuff like that, but in the relative scheme of things, he survived relatively unscathed. Other people suffered a hell of a lot more than he did, and a lot of it he didn't realize that the faith element played a big role in it until I started to push it a little last night. But Those are the sorts of things that are sitting out there. So stop thinking about yourself. Start thinking about what can I do for others. For me, my trademark is what can I do to help you. And this is the collective you. It's not just Sasha. It's the collective you to be all that you can be. What are the small things that I can
Wow.
do? What is this?
Yeah.
If I can give you too often, we are busy pulling people down. Now, let's start thinking about how can I give you a lift? How can I push you up? And and I'm not asking for even 5 cents from any of you. So that's
Well,
for me. That's my purpose. Huh?
that's that is okay. Yeah, I think I'm very aligned with you, Krishnan, when you talk about being sincerity. Some of them maybe they want to use this as a platform to do better in some other thing like business or what. Okay, so maybe we do not want to go about that. But I think most of the people who have the very pure heart to volunteer, they basically do not want anything, but they understand like what you mentioned to about Francis just now. Okay, we have to have faith. Something will come back to us. I would like to say also, Zaha has mentioned something here, and he says about what is the value of great wisdom and experience without sharing or imparting to our peers and young ones. Yeah, is correct, Zaha. I think Zaha is echoing what you mentioned about uh what you actually give out to the students. What is in it for them if they actually go volunteering and take whatever necessary exams? Actually they will be benefit because they can be a better project manager compared to other students. And then Zaha also mentioned that we have construction, AI, and construction focused area for our members to enjoy and networking and experience sharing through volunteering. I always love networking, and that is actually something that all our PMI Malaysia folks, are not only PMI Malaysia, but we actually could network with other volunteers all over the world. Okay, with R15, we always have the opportunity. Okay, so start with the volunteering. You can actually go to somewhere else. Okay, like I had opportunity to go to Bali. I think you got the opportunity to go to US and everywhere in parts of the world. And Francis mentioned that make a difference and to be different. And then Francis say make a difference. Yes, MAD. Yeah, make a difference. Thank you very much, Francis, Zaha, and those who's joining us tonight. I think this is really, really very close to heart, and I feel a little bit sensitive. I don't know what, but I feel a little bit sensitive tonight because this topic, project management skill, volunteering. Just I would like to impart. Maybe we actually have we already past time already 8 minutes past 10, but I would like to say something. When I was being appointed project manager in 2015, and basically, they said that, Shasha, we are actually serving Shell account. Okay, during the time I was actually in oil and gas, and they said that, Shell actually required you to be certified because all the project managers who runs the project manager for oil and gas, especially Shell, is required to be certified. And I said, yeah, bring it on. I say, just bring it on. Okay, because I need to do my work effectively. So therefore I just go ahead and since then I was a member of PMI Malaysia chapter. And definitely, even though, okay, we don't have to talk about whether I got a promotion or not, that's a different story. But in my career as well, I have a lot of opportunity, and I also had a lot of opportunity to meet all the fine peoples in PMI Malaysia chapter. All right, I got to meet Francis, I got to meet Zahar, since both of them are in here, and maybe Anand. Okay, Anand and Keen. Okay, so we meet each other, and of course I meet you. My past presidents, okay, the past presidents of PMI Malaysia chapter. With that, basically, I would like to conclude. Volunteering actually shows us actually we are the bigger picture. We are the bigger picture of PMI Malaysia chapter. And it reconnects you with your values actually when you volunteer. Like what Krishnan you mentioned about, whether you want to be a volunteer and you have that sincerity in yourself. And whenever you give to the people, it will come back to you. But it's not that, I want something. It's too soon. Like you're not being passionate enough. But if you see the real stories, you understand the real lessons during volunteering, you will create that real confidence in you. And most importantly, it proves that when project management skills meet community purpose, the impact goes far beyond tasks and the timelines, and it touches people. And so if you've been waiting, okay, for all outside there, the people outside there, okay, if you've been waiting for the right moment, okay, to volunteer, okay, what Zaha and also Francis mentioned, make a difference, all right. And Zaha mentioned that, okay, this is the time for you to impart some knowledge, to give something out there, okay, so people can take whatever legacy you do, all right. This is the right moment for volunteer, and say yes to all the opportunity if you have, and raise your hand, step in, like what Krishnan mentioned just now. And your skills can change more than projects. Actually, they can change lives. And with that,
Correct.
yes. So with that, I would like to say thank you to you, Krishnan, and to all our, and of course, you're our past presidents of PMI Malaysia chapter, and to all of you who's actually together with us, listening and together with us tonight. And we will talk again next time in our next podcast. Okay. And with that, thank you, and have a great evening. Bye bye,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.